The moment I realized my life was about to tilt off its axis came not with thunder or sirens, but with the quiet shock of recognition in a softly lit restaurant, where laughter felt borrowed and my heart was already tired of pretending. I looked up from a table meant for someone else and locked eyes with the one person who knew me better than I ever wanted her to. In that instant, the past, the present, and a future I had never dared to imagine collided, and nothing felt safe anymore. If you believe in kindness, unexpected grace, and the possibility that life offers second chances when we least deserve them, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can find the hearts they're meant to reach. I was sitting in a small Italian place in Columbus, Ohio, the kind of restaurant with warm lights and framed photos of people who looked happier than I felt. The blind date had been my sister's idea, another well-meaning attempt to fix what she called my loneliness. I called it survival. At 34, I had learned how to keep breathing without expecting much from love. I worked long hours as a physical therapist, came home to an empty apartment, and told myself that routine was peace. My best friend Nathan had tried for years to pull me back into the world, but life had pulled him away first. He moved to Denver, got married, had kids, and built a life that felt like a different universe from mine. Nathan's mom, Margaret, had been a quiet constant during my childhood and early adulthood. She was the kind of woman who remembered birthdays, baked bread on Sundays, and listened more than she spoke. After Nathan moved, we lost touch naturally, like people do when time stretches thin. I hadn't seen her in years, and I never expected to see her there, in that restaurant, on the night I agreed to let a stranger judge whether I was still worth choosing. She was sitting at a corner table with a book and a cup of tea, silver now threading her brown hair, her posture still gentle and strong. When our eyes met, something unreadable crossed her face. Recognition turned into surprise, and surprise into something deeper that made my chest tighten. I remember standing halfway out of my chair, unsure whether to greet her or disappear, when she stood too, her presence calm but powerful. She didn't say anything out loud that I can share here, but the look she gave me carried a question that would echo in my mind for months, one that challenged everything I believed about timing, fear, and worth. The rest of that night passed in a blur. My date arrived late, spoke mostly about himself, and never noticed the quiet storm happening inside me. I kept seeing Margaret's eyes, kind but searching, as if she had seen a version of me I had forgotten. When I finally left the restaurant, the cold Ohio air felt sharper, more honest. I walked to my car and sat there longer than necessary, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me anchored. In the days that followed, I tried to push the memory aside. I told myself it was awkward coincidence, nothing more. But life doesn't let go that easily when it has something to teach you. A week later, I ran into Margaret again, this time at a local community center where I volunteered on weekends. She was there helping organize donations, moving with the same quiet purpose I remembered. Seeing her in daylight made everything feel more real, more complicated. We talked without speaking in the way people do when history fills the space. She had stayed in Ohio to be close to her church and her work with local families. She had lost her husband, Thomas, 5 years earlier after a long illness. Grief had etched lines into her face, but it had also softened her, made her presence feel deeper, steadier. I realized then how much pain she carried with grace, and how little credit I had ever given her for the strength she possessed. As weeks turned into months, our paths crossed more often, never forced, always natural. We volunteered together, shared meals with others around us, and found comfort in small, ordinary moments. I learned how she filled her evenings with music and prayer, how she struggled with the quiet of a house once full of noise. She learned about my failed relationships, my fear of becoming invisible, my habit of putting everyone else's needs before my own. The biggest challenge wasn't what people would think, though that fear loomed heavy. It was the voice inside my head telling me I didn't deserve something this gentle, this unexpected. I worried about Nathan, about crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I worried about age, about judgment, about losing the fragile peace we had built. what began to change everything was not a dramatic confession or grand gesture, but a slow, mutual understanding that sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives like a steady light in a dark room, illuminating corners you were afraid to look at. Being around Margaret made me braver. She saw me not as broken or behind, but as someone still becoming. One evening, after a long day of volunteering, we sat quietly watching the sunset paint the sky over the river. There were no promises made, no plans declared. Just a shared sense that whatever this was, it was real, and it mattered. I felt a peace I hadn't known since childhood, a sense of being seen without having to perform. When I finally spoke to Nathan about it, my hands shook. His response wasn't immediate acceptance or rejection, but something more honest. He needed time. And I gave it, knowing that love, real love, asks for patience. Months later, he visited Ohio, and we talked face to face. He saw how Margaret looked at me, how I listened to her, how we supported each other without losing ourselves. He hugged me before he left, and though words were few, understanding was there. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were whispers, raised eyebrows, moments of doubt. But there was also laughter, shared faith, and a partnership rooted in respect. Margaret taught me that healing doesn't erase scars, it teaches you how to live with them without shame. As I stand here now, looking back on the night that changed everything, I know that blind date wasn't a mistake. It was a doorway. It led me to a love I never thought I was allowed to want, let alone have. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that hope can appear in the most unexpected places, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your support helps keep stories like this alive for others who need them. And before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know, because sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't about who we plan to meet, but about who life places in our path when we're finally ready to see them.